off my boat. Rule number 4 is no smoking. Those are the rules. Alright. I'm going to start telling you a little bit about the river, starting with the most commonly asked question. Is this a real river or is it a man-made river? And the answer is both. If you want to know where you are is the real river or a man-made river, look at the size of the trees. Look at these big old trees on either side of the boat. When they're big like this, these are called bald cypress trees. And if you see large trees, you know that you're in a natural part of the river. Bald cypress trees grow very, very slowly. And so when they're big like this, they're hundreds of years old. And they really like to grow on the side of water like this. This river itself flows out of a little spring, which is about 5 miles north, and it goes all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. The San Antonio River has been flowing for about 15,000 years. And people have been living on this river for about 10,000 years. The people that lived here were called Payayas. Payayas were a small indigenous group that was a hunter-gatherer society. And they got along really, really well with the Catholics. The Catholics built the Alamo for the Payayas. How many people, raise your hand if you've actually been to the Alamo. It's like a few people. Okay, and if you're going to go from the river, if you want to get to the Alamo from the river, just go right through this little lobby right here. See how it says Shops at Paseo del Alamo? You can go right through the lobby, out the other side, walk up the steps, and you're at the Alamo. The RiverWalk itself, that was the idea of a guy named Robert Hugman. Robert Hugman is the father of the RiverWalk. He had the idea to build the RiverWalk in 1929. That was the year that the city of San Antonio built a flood channel. And we're going to go through the flood channel in a few minutes. It's on the other side of the river. They built the flood channel in order to protect this area. But Robert Hugman, who is a local architect, thought, as long as we know it's not going to flood anymore, what if we could make this river deep enough and wide enough so little boats could go down? We could add some sidewalks and some footbridges, and we could call it the Shops of Aragon and Romulus. That was the name that he had for the RiverWalk. That name didn't work out. But the idea of having RiverWalk would eventually catch on. In 1939, the President Roosevelt was handing out free money. It was the Great Depression, and he was trying to stimulate the economy. So he would hire workers. They would hire workers, and they were public work. It was a public worker program, and to give people jobs, and he would give cities money so they could build public works stuff like this river. So in 1939, Robert Hugman had convinced the right people. He got some federal funding, and they built the RiverWalk in 2 years. And that same year, Robert Hugman put his office right here on the other side of the blue umbrellas. You can see his name on that underneath the fence. It says, to the right of the boat, look right now, you'll see Architect R.H.H. Hugman. That's his office. And this is his face right here. That's a little bust. That's what he would look like if he were metal. Robert Hugman put his office there because he wanted people to know that the flood channel was effective, that the RiverWalk worked. That if you built a restaurant down here, it would be safe. Unfortunately, nobody believed him, and he was down here by himself for 5 years. And then, in 1945, there was a flood in San Antonio, and while the city was flooding, the RiverWalk itself didn't even get up on the sidewalks, which meant the flood channel had worked. So the very next year, Robert Hugman's dream came true when the first restaurant opened on the RiverWalk, and that restaurant's this one right here. This is the Casa Rio. Google a picture of San Antonio from the 50s, and you'll see people eating under umbrellas just like these 50, 60 years ago. Because for a long time, this restaurant behind me, that was the RiverWalk. It was really just that restaurant.